Welcome to Ashmont University. I'm your professor today, Adam Ashmont. Today, we're going to be covering part 4 of the Columbus, Central Ohio MLS. And today, we're going to be going through the list of tabs. Now, what that means and concludes is we're going to be talking about how to sort criteria for your clients as they look through their property search, such as bedrooms, bathrooms, school districts, and etc. We also will be talking about the different tabs as history tab, a little bit about the property, if it was on market before, and the prices, as well as any tax and information if you want to see what property taxes were, and history, transfer history of the property. So stay with us. We're going to cover those topics right after this.
And I'm going to start with the basic search. So I'm going to go to search at the top left-hand corner, and I'm going to go to quick search, and I'm going to go to residential. It's already highlighted at the top, and I'm going to click use. Now what I'm going to do here is search for some listings and then view those listings. And I'm going to view the details. I'm also going to go through and select multiple properties simultaneously. So first thing I want to do is some criteria. So I'm going to go to school district. Just for brevity's sake, I'm just going to put in Dublin schools, and for list price, I'm going to put in $300,000 to $350,000. Now, once I put in that basic criteria, obviously I might put in more criteria for a real search, but I just need to get some listings and view them on the list of results. Well, how I do that? Notice up at the top of the screen the tabs, list and details and photos that I'm hovering over with my mouse right now. Those tabs take you to all the sections we're going to look at right now. And the first one is list. When I click on the list, that is the list of results that match your current criteria. And notice those listings appear right here on a one-line view, but you can quickly change that to the multi-line view with these little icons that I'm pointing to at the top of the screen. Notice when I click the multi-line view, it shows the thumbnail on the left-hand side. And then the basic information, it's still highlighted in yellow, and that tells me which property is currently selected. But I can just jump between those. I can go back to the one-line view just by going to the top of the screen and clicking the little stacked icon here. That takes me to the one-line view, and that certainly makes it easier to scroll through a lot of properties. You can always use the select box on the left-hand side to select a property. I like to go to the thumbnail view to do that, because when you click on the thumbnail view, then the photo on the left-hand side lets you see the property, at least the primary photo, for each of the properties on the list. But whichever view you prefer, they both do the same thing. They just offer the format a little different on the screen here. Notice you can also change the size of the font on the screen. Notice I'm clicking the plus sign and minus sign up here on the font. You can change that. We looked at preferences earlier in this class, and we talked about being able to change the font size on the preferences page. Well, you can do it right here as well with the plus and minus symbol just to make the font a little larger. Now you can also go through and click on any of the column headers here. Notice subdivision name. If I click on the subdivision name, it says sort ascending or sort descending. So if I simply want to sort descending, that will put the largest, that is W, rather than A. It starts A through Z. This will be Z through A. So Wyndham Village subdivision is at the top. Same thing with beds. If I click on bedrooms, beds, and I click sort ascending, it'll put the smallest number at the top. Or if I click on beds and click sort descending, then it will sort with beds largest number at the top. So you get the idea. You can change the sort here just by clicking this. Now, just so you know, if you rerun the search and come back to this page, or if you leave this page or leave the MLS and come back in, this is just temporary. You're just changing the sort temporarily. If you wanted to make that permanent, you could go over to the sort menu here and create your own sort down here at the bottom. Or if you go to the view and you want to change the actual columns, you can click on view, and that will take you into this screen where you can actually create the view. And you can save it and give it your own name on the General tab and actually change the fields that appear back on the view right here. So view will let you actually change the columns that are on your view. And then you can go in and modify those. Notice I've got several I've created here. But that's the view. Now, I want to go through and look at some more things on this grid results, the list tab at the top of the screen before we go any further. First of all, beside the MLS number, notice there is an arrow. A little down arrow triangle right there will let you see tax auditor site, showing request, and report of violation. Tax auditor site, when I click on that, opens a new tab and takes me to the county auditor, in this case Delaware County, for that property. And all I did was click on the down arrow beside the MLS number and click on tax auditor site. Assuming that the parcel number was typed correctly by the listing agent, that should work. What else do we have here? If we click the down arrow beside the MLS number, I also have showing request. Now here's how this works. When you click on the showing request option, it will take you to the showing service that is affiliated with that broker. But I must stress that is affiliated with that broker, not affiliated with the individual agent. In other words, if an agent has a showing service and they put the showing phone number on the listing, that we'll talk about a little more here in the listing section next. But if the broker, the office, is not affiliated with that showing service, then that link will not work. When you click on that, you'll get an error. And let me see if I can find one here quickly by clicking showing request. Nope, this one links. I'm going to go down to the next one, click the down arrow, and click showing request. Nope, that one links too. So you're going to have to, well, some of them will and some of them won't. It all depends. If it links directly to the showing services that have accounts with offices, then it will link directly with this down arrow and clicking on showing request. If only the agent is affiliated with that showing service, it will not work that way. It will require you to use the showing phone number field. And that's why it's so important that the showing phone number field be filled in by the listing agent, because that's how people are going to schedule showings. They're going to have to call the showing phone number. So that is a required field on Add Edit. But what else do we have here on the down arrow? Well, I click the little down arrow and I go to report a violation. Now, when I click on report a violation, this is where I can type in that the agent name is in property description. All right, now if I click send down here at the bottom, that will actually report that violation to the MLS policy violation department. Now, you can contact the agent and say, hey, you're not supposed to have that information in there, or you can report it. There are warnings for some of these violations. There are immediate fines for others. So understand, if you do report them, they could end up getting a fine or a warning, depending upon whether they've been warned before and depending upon that fine has a warning prior to a fine being assessed. But that's how you would do it, is report a violation to the policy coordinator. You simply click the down arrow and you click report a violation. Just so you know, there's another way to do that. Notice this highlighted in yellow property right here that I'm moving my mouse across. At the top right hand corner, when you click the report a violation button up here at the top right where I'm hovering my mouse now, that little red report a violation button takes you to the exact same screen. So whether you click the report a violation with the highlighted property in yellow, or whether you click the down arrow and click report a violation, that is how you report incorrect and incomplete or misleading information on a listing to the policy coordinator. All right, without further ado here, I want to select a few more listings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this one on Turin Hill, and I'm going to select, let's see, this one on Tralee, and we'll select this one on Pueblo. All right, so I've selected 3 properties. Notice up at the top of the screen, the selected box, or the selected collection is what it really is, where I'm hovering my mouse where it says results 30 and it says selected 3. It says selected 3 because we checked the box in front of 3 properties. So if I click on selected 3, it will show me only those 3 properties. Now that's really nice because now I don't have to scroll through 30 properties to see the 3 that I've selected. But it's even more important than that, because notice at the bottom of the screen we have these buttons. Bottom left-hand corner, I'm highlighting the little arrows. And those little arrows allow you to arbitrarily rearrange in any order you want these properties. Well, I'm going to go back to the results. And as soon as I do that, notice the buttons disappear. You can only rearrange properties in the selected collection. So I'm going to add another property here. I'm going to go down to Terra Hill Drive, and I'm going to check the box. And I'm going to go back up to selected at the top left corner. And when I click on selected, now there are the 4 properties. Let's say I want to rearrange these. I want to put Turin Hill at the bottom of the list. Well, there are 2 ways to do that. One is to simply click and hold on the address and drag. Notice it breaks loose, and I can move that property just by dragging it to the bottom or dragging it to the top. But if you have a longer list, it might be more convenient just to go down to the arrows down at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen and click the double arrow to move Turin Hill all the way to the bottom, or move it one line up at a time using the green arrow at the bottom left-hand corner. Click the arrow, or click the blue arrow to move it down, or again, click the double green arrow to move it all the way to the top. So I'm going to move Terra Hill all the way to the top by clicking the double arrow, and I'm going to click Turin Hill down to the 3rd position by dragging and dropping. You get the idea. You can only do this rearrangement that I'm using with the arrows or drag and drop in the selected collection up here at the top left-hand corner. If you go back to results, notice it is not possible. The errors just don't exist. You have to go to the selected collection, the selected 4 in this case, and that will allow you to do the rearrangement using the drag and drop buttons at the bottom of the screen. Okay, but now I want to look at individual properties. So I've got this property selected, meaning it's highlighted in yellow. And again, you can click on an address, it highlights that property in yellow. So for the example, I'll just click on Tralee Drive and I'll go to Detail. Notice the Detail tab at the top of the screen. When I click on the detail, that shows me that detail report, that in this case, it's the full 2-page report. And that's because that's my preference. I've set that. But remember, on the Detail tab, you can see a lot of information here all the way across these icons on the Detail tab. Now, I'm going to go through these right now. The first one I want to look at is the report dropdown. When I click the report dropdown, notice on 2-page report, but if I go brief with photos, it will show me a different report with multiple photos on that report. It shows brief information at the top and 9 photos down at the bottom, hence the name Agent Brief with Photos. Now it says Agent Brief with Photos because notice when I click the down arrow on reports, I got private selected. If I want to switch to the public view, I simply click on Public, and now I'm looking at the public view. Again, what's the difference? Well, when I click the down arrow, notice when I select private, it shows contact information for the listing agent. Let's go back to another report. I click the report and I go to the full 2-page report. And on the full 2-page report, again, since I have private selected, it will show all the agent information, including the contact information at the bottom of the screen, and other fields that would only be for the listing agents, including the compensation fields, including the listing agent-to-agent remarks. Now notice this property doesn't have any agent-to-agent remarks. Let me try another one. And notice when I switch it, it stays in the view I was currently in. In this case, there are agent-to-agent remarks. In this case, there are agent-to-agent remarks. So again, the agent-only fields will appear on the private reports, and you can view it just by going to Report and changing it public versus private there on the report. That's for your view. Most of the time, you as the agent are going to be looking at the agent reports, the private reports, because you want to see all those agent-only fields. But now let's go ahead and look at some of the other options on the Detail tab. When I click on the Detail tab, notice the report view is what we're looking at. But if I click on History, that's literally going to show me the history. And it's important to realize that you click the down arrow to see that expanded history. You click the, not down arrow, the plus sign. Sorry about that. This little plus sign over on the left side. You click on the plus sign again, it shows you even more details about that particular MLS number. Now, wait a minute, what's this other MLS number below it? Well, that's the historical MLS number, in this case from 2002. Now, how do I know what the dates are again? Remember, MLS numbers, if it's a 9-digit MLS number, the first 3 digits, 217, tell you the year. So it's 2017. On a 7-digit MLS number, the first 2 digits, 22, tell you it's 2002. It can be a little confusing, but just remember, if you look at the history for the property, you can see when it was newly listed, right there it is, 2002. So it's easy to figure out if you just expand the history by clicking the little plus sign beside the history. And again, once you click those plus signs, you can see all the details of what was changed. The agent-to-agent remarks was modified, and what was changed here, and when the listing was added new, and what time, and who did it. So this is available to all agents just to go into the history and view the changes that were made over time. Showing the days on market, for example. And notice that the days on market count will subtract all of the off-market days. So you'll see the days counting here, but when the final count is made, it subtracts off-market statuses. In this case, it was in pending status. So it was not counted against the final number. So that's how the days on market, and CDOM will calculate 365 days back until it finds a sold. If it finds a sold within that 365 days, it stops counting. But CDOM will accumulate anything that has been on the market for 365 days back and then just keep daisy chaining those. If the property has bounced on and off the market, CDOM will continue to grow. It goes back 365 days looking for a sold. Now, if it's more than that, it won't accumulate those CDOM days. But if it finds a property that did not sell, in other words, it went canceled or went withdrawn, whatever, then it will accumulate those cumulative days on market in that field. All right, so that's your history. I'm going to close that. And remember, you just click on any property and it stays in the view you're currently in. Now, tax info, also on the details tab, is simply the realist information about this property. And when we pull up the realist information, we can get that from clicking on the map as I showed you earlier, or we can go to it right here and it loads the realist information in the frame. Now, if you want to go out to realist, you can launch the full version of realist right here, and that will take you to that property within realist. Notice that's flash loading, and now it's going to take you to the realist report for this property. It can be very slow loading flash the first time, so be aware of that. And here it comes. Now, it'll load much faster the next time I load that property, but this is taking you to that same property on Tralee Drive in Realist. So if I double click on it down here in the bottom, then you'll see the Realist information. Again, notice the tab up at the top for Realist. I'm going to close that, which will take me back to the main Realist window. And in the main Realist window, we can go to Comparables. What does that do? Well, Launch Realist takes you to the property, but Comparables takes you to the property, but focuses directly on the Comparables tab on the information for that property. Notice up here at the top, you got Property Detail and the Comparables tab. Since we clicked on the Comparables link, it takes us to the Comparables page, the Comparables tab here in Realist. Same thing with the Market Trends. That will take you to the Market Trends report on Realist when you click that. Again, Realist loads, you get the idea. Okay, so that's on the Details tab. You can view the basic detail information from the Realist report here. But again, if you want to go out to the full version of Realist, not full version of Realist, the full page for this property on Realist, then you can click the links at the top of the page. Again, documents at the top of the page. Again, here's an RPD that has been uploaded, and it is marked private. Notice that when you upload documents, they are marked private, meaning they will only be sent to the agent. So you are logged in as an agent right now. You can view the private documents. Otherwise, you would only see public documents. This one is marked private, so it would simply not be there. The Documents tab just wouldn't be there because there are no public documents uploaded for this listing. If I go to Terra Hill, notice that one's public. So if this went out to the public and the agent chose to send them the documents, the public documents could be emailed, and this link would be available for the public. And in that case, it must be sanitized for the government. In other words, or not government, the public. So in other words, it cannot have any branding for the agent, their company, their website, their name, anything like that. Open House button at the top of the Detail tab. Notice we're still on the Detail tab here. If I want to jump back to List, I can. And that's just the list of the 4 properties, or I can go to the top left corner and click on Results. We're still working on these 4 properties. I click on Detail. And remember, we're on the Open House button on the Detail tab. Well, here are the open houses that have been scheduled. Notice they were in the past. They will stay there. You don't have to go through and delete them. If people are searching for open houses, they're only going to find it if it's in the future. If it's in the past, you could go through and delete it, but you don't have to. Now I'm going to go to the calculator, and that literally is a mortgage calculator, just a simple mortgage calculator. Neighborhood, now that opens in a new tab. Notice that is another Realist report, and it takes you specifically to the Realist neighborhood report. And as it's loading, there it is, neighborhood profile. From the Detail tab, from Neighborhood button. What about the AVM? Well, if I click on the AVM, that will take you out to the AVM in Data Co-op. Now again, keep in mind what an AVM is. It is a robotic valuation. Now notice it says success, valuation successful, 82%, and estimated value range leave questions in my mind. Okay, now if you're comparing this to a Zestimate, then this might be a useful report to use. Just be aware that this does not replace a full CMA that you're going to do and carefully put in the numbers and check everything and give them a value range. Just very simply, that value range right there for the estimated value is kind of scary to me. but and the confidence score 82, estimated value, because what they're doing is they're comparing the different ways they ran this and the different numbers they're using, and that's what drags the confidence score down. If you get one that doesn't have good comps and they can't get a successful valuation that agrees with itself, then the confidence score drops. And I've seen very low confidence scores. There's no way I'd give that to a client. Just be aware that's what this is. Now, again, if they're doing a Zestimate and you're wanting to compare this to it, then this might be a useful report for you. And again, I got to it just by going to the Detail tab and clicking on AVM on the Detail tab. Now, I've got this More option. That only appears because my screen isn't wide enough to display all of the options. If I go to More, notice these are 3 data co-op options in addition to the AVM that I already showed you. When I click on Listing and Market Activity, it shows me the Listing and Market Activity report from Data Co-op. So you may want to use that. You can print it off right up at the top of the screen with the print button. You can download it as a PDF. It's generated into a PDF already, so you can do whatever you'd like with it as far as giving it to your client or using it for your research. Closing that tab at the top of the screen. Now I go back over to the More tab again, and I go to the Consolidated Report, which basically is the list of all of the reports in Data Co-op that you can use. And you can preview them, which will generate the PDF. Then you can save it, or you can send this to yourself or to a client. I'd definitely go through and review all these before you send them to the client, because there may be some redundancy in there that you don't want to use, or some reports you just don't want them to have. That's what Preview Report will do, is generate it to a PDF and let you view it. I'm going to close that. Close it at the top. And again, you go to More and you have Data Co-op View. That will let you see all little gadgets or interface for each of the reports that are available. First, it'll show you the property on the map. Then it takes you immediately, without clicking on anything, it takes you to this interactive page where you've got a little gadget for each of the reports. And you can go through and view those reports here in Data Co-op. And again, remember the Consolidated Report that we just clicked on, right here it is again, Consolidated Property Report. If I click on that here in Data Co-op, it's the exact same page loaded within the Data Co-op window. But I can go directly to that just by clicking on More and going to Consolidated Report right there. All right, now I'm going to click on another property here. Oh, what did it do? Well, it took me to Data Co-op and took me to the Data Co-op view, because that's the last option I used over here. So if I want to go back to Report, now it will load that report for that property, and I can click on whichever one I want. Click on the property here on Terra Hill. The More button has those additional options. Click on this property, click on More. And there'll be another option in the More menu here, and it will be for RPR. It doesn't appear on this screen, and I'm honestly not sure why that's not showing up, but RPR will allow you to log into RPR, and you'll get it from this screen. You'll go to, I'm going to try the results screen and see if it'll show up there. No, it's not showing up on the screen there. Under the More option here, you should have a link for RPR. And that will do the exact same thing it did for Data Co-op. When you click on the More button, you click on RPR right here on the bottom of the list. That will link you out to RPR. Now, you'll have to have your RPR login. If it doesn't automatically log you in, it keeps you logged in for 2 weeks. But if you log in on another computer, then it will bump you out. So if you want to see the RPR data, you can go to More and click on RPR there in the drop-down list. Now, that's the Details tab. I want to go over to the Photos tab. And I'm just working across on the top of the screen here, list, detail, photos, etc. Here are your photos. Unlimited number of photos can be added online, and you can upload those to your listing, and they can be flipped through. And notice how fast I'm flipping through these photos. I'm just click, 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 and it's moving very quickly. They can also expand them full screen by clicking this little full screen button down here at the bottom left-hand corner of the photo preview. And that takes you into this screen. And then you can flip through these. I'm going to close at the top right-hand corner. I'm going to click the X to take me back to this smaller full, the full MLS system. But now notice this little arrow. This will make the thumbnails hide. And that'll give you a little bit bigger photo display right there in the browser. I'm going to click that arrow again to make the thumbnails show up. I like the thumbnails. And if I want to flip through the thumbnails by clicking on them at the bottom of the screen, I can do that as well. So whether I use the arrows to move through the photos or whether I click the photo thumbnails at the bottom of the screen, that lets me access all of those photos in real time just by clicking on them here on the screen. Now, that was the Photos tab. I'm going to go to the Map tab at the top right-hand corner. Oh, before I leave Photos, notice I can click the down arrow up here at the top of the photo preview, and I can click on photos up there as well. So if I want to flip through a photo, now this agent has just simply used the name of the image as the name of the photo, except for the exterior front. And notice they can go through, you as the client can go through and rename those photos. We'll talk about that in Add Edit with the photo upload. All right, but now this is the photo uploader. Now I'm going to go over and click on the Map tab at the top of the screen. And here's where it becomes important. When I click on the Map tab, notice all of the properties on the left-hand side are mapped. Now they're all green because they're all active or contingent. If they were sold, remember they'd be color-coded. They'd be color-coded if they were canceled or withdrawn. But here's what I want to do. I don't want all 30 properties. I only want to see the 4 that I selected. So I click on the Selected Collection at the top left-hand corner. When I do that, now notice that only the 4 properties that I previously selected are displayed on the map. The reason that is significant, because when you go to driving directions on the map at the top right-hand corner, that will take you to Google. Notice it says View in Google Maps here. Now, let's think about this. Just the 4. I don't want all 30. I selected these 4 for a reason. So I click on Driving Directions at the top right-hand corner. Then I click on View in Google Maps right here, this blue button at the bottom, and it opens, indeed, Google Maps. Now, there are the same 4 properties, Terra Hill, Turin, Tralee Drive, Pueblo Court, and I can actually rearrange these just like I did by dragging and dropping them back on the MLS, but I'm not affecting the MLS. I am affecting, notice, the driving directions I've created here. But the MLS is not corrected, the order in MLS is not corrected or affected in any way because you're outside the MLS. You're in Google Maps now. So if you log into Google Maps, you can actually save your home and save locations and do everything you can do with Google Maps, you can do with Google Maps right here because that's where you are. You're at Google Maps. You're not in the MLS. If I change anything, it doesn't read back or write back to the MLS. I have to close the tab. Now I'm back in the MLS, and nothing that I did in Google Maps is saved here because all you're doing is linking these 4 properties, sending them out to driving directions in Google Maps, and there they are. But this allows you to create driving tours and whatever you want to do with the listings you selected from the MLS automatically. Again, just by going to the Map tab and clicking on Driving Directions. And don't forget, when you're on the map, you can always click on a property and see the information about that property, including the parcel number, which will take you to Realist, and the MLS number, which will open the details for that property. All right, the next tab over is the Compare tab up here at the top of the screen, continuing our march across the screen and the tabs. When I click on the Compare tab, it's simply going to compare the currently selected property, the one in yellow, to the rest of the data set. Well, what's the rest of the data set? In this case, these other 3 properties. And so notice it's got 4 with the original price and 4. See, these are going to be comparing just this property to these 4. Now, if you go back to results, notice the Compare tab is now comparing 30 properties. Number of listings because the selected collection only had the 4 that you had previously selected. And that's how that works. Now, I've got these properties. I want to go back to the list. I've got these 4 properties. I selected them. I looked at them. I went through the details for all of them. I know these are the ones my client would be interested in. I want to send these listings to my client. And notice I can always bounce back and change the search. I can bounce to the list. I can go to the selected collection on the list. I can go to the full results on the list. Now, when I go to email at the top of the screen or print at the top of the screen, it is going to be aware of these 4 selected properties. If I had not selected any properties, it'll be aware of that too. Let me show you what I mean. Let me first go to email. I click on email at the top of the screen, and I click either printer friendly or interactive. What's the difference? Well, either way, your client is going to get an email link, a hyperlink in their email said, here are the listings to check out. Do you want them to go directly to a report and nothing else? That's what the printer-friendly version is. It will take them from that link to a report. They can print it out, and they really can't do anything else. Interactive version will take them to the same interface that we just used. The list view, the details view, the photos, the map, the compare tab, all of those options that you had and the interface that you had, that's what your client will get. Well, I want to use the interactive view. But, for some clients, they're not going to want to use the printer or just the report. They're going to want all that interactive, rich content where they can click through and see all 500 photos if the agent's uploaded that, or all 50 photos, whatever it might be. Others are just going to want to click print and sit down on the couch and look through the listings while they watch TV. So that's your choice here. Know your client and ask your client, which do you want? Do you want to just print a report and nothing else? Or would you like to see all of the photos and the map and be able to navigate around through? You have to kind of know your client and what their needs are, because if they're really not a computer person, they really don't like being that interactive social media kind of thing, then maybe printer friendly is for them. But you just need to know that, and you choose that right here. Notice you can select don't show this again down at the bottom. You can always choose the printer friendly version, but if you choose interactive and click don't show, it'll just automatically go to interactive, and then you can check it on the next page. I'm not going to check that box. I'm just going to click on interactive version, which takes me to the email. Now, wait a minute. What's this yellow box up here at the top? What's that say? It says private reports should only be emailed to agents. Private reports will require agent login and contain agent-only information. Providing an MLS login to non-members is a violation and can result in fines. Why is it showing me that? Well, let me close it. Notice over here on the left-hand side, it says listings to email, and right below it, it says photos private. Remember, the private version has agent contact information, compensation information, agent-to-agent remarks field. When you choose public, it will sanitize. It'll get rid of all those agent-only fields. Now you're not going to get that yellow box, but I changed my mind. I want to send out the private version. And you get the warning again. Hey, do you really want to do this? Now, if you want to send the private version to another agent, maybe you've got a peer in your office that has a client who is looking for a property that you think this might be perfect for, fine. Email them the private version, but do not send it to a member of the public, especially your client, because when it arrives, they will have to have a username and password to log in. And it says that right there. That means that if you give them your password, you violated MLS policy. If you don't give them your password, you have to tell them, oops, I sent you the wrong one. Let me try again. Either way, that's not a good answer. So the best thing is never send a private version of any report to your client. And that's why that yellow box is there to remind you. Public reports are for email. Now notice this gray box. Always notice this gray box at the top of the screen that I'm highlighting at the left corner right now. Notice because we selected 4 properties, it says selected 4 because we checked 4 properties. So it's already got them selected. If we hadn't, it would have only selected the current listing. So be careful, because you don't want to send this out and say, hey, here are 4 listings, and you accidentally click current listing. Or if you didn't select anything, meaning the check boxes themselves, then it will default to the yellow highlighted. That's the selected current listing, the yellow highlighted one. If you want to go with the check boxes, you have to click selected. Or if you change your mind and you just want to send them all, then you just click all results right there, and you can send all 30 results. I'm going to click on selected. I'm going to say I want them, when they get it, I want them to start with the photos for the first property. Or maybe I want to start on the map for the first property. Or maybe I want to start on the report for the first property. And again, I want the public version. And I can choose which report I want to send them. The brief with photos, the full 2-page report, the full report. And if you don't know what these are, well, then you can preview it. So let's do that. Let's preview the report view public version of the CR brief. I'm going to click the preview button at the bottom of the screen right down here where I'm hovering with my mouse. When I click on preview, it's going to show me what they're going to see when they click that hyperlink they get in email. They're going to see the 4 listings on the left-hand side. They're going to see the list tab. They're going to see the details. I said start on the report, so it started on the report, and it started with the customer brief with photos report with the 9 extra photos. They've got the tax info. They've got the photos. But wait a minute. What if you don't want them to have the tax info? What if you don't want them to have the documents? Can you turn that off? Absolutely. I'm going to click Close Preview at the bottom of the screen. When I click Close Preview, I go back over to the left-hand side and notice I chose that report. That's fine. But I want to have the history available to them. I don't want them to have documents. I may want them to have open houses or mortgage calculator. I want them to have the photos. I don't want them to have the videos. I want them to have the virtual tours. I want them to have the map. And I want them to have the branding. Wait a minute. What if I don't want that branding? Uncheck it. See it. Let's preview it again. Bottom of the screen. I click Preview. Now here it is again. There's that same report. No branding. And let me click Close Preview. I'm going to turn off the photos and the map on the left-hand side navigation, and I'm going to click Preview again. Now notice the Photos tab is still there, but it says no tours available. And where's the Map tab? Well, you've turned off the photos and the map. Again, I click Close Preview. I turn the map back on the left-hand side. I turn the photos back on the left-hand side, and I click Preview again. All right, so there's the map tab at the top of the screen, and the photos will be displayed as expected. I want to click close. Oh, I forgot to turn my branding on. What's branding? Well, it's your business card, your contact information. You've got generic, profile, and profile vertical by default. I've added a couple here myself. But generic, profile, and profile vertical, what are those? Let's check them out. I click generic. I click preview. And there's the generic profile at the bottom. Right here, this blue part with my photo and my information, my contact information. Close preview. I'm going to go and try the profile card, and I'm going to click preview again. All right, now notice it does take up a good part of the screen, so you may want to consider that, because now if I go to photos, it's kind of cramped there, but you still want your contact information most likely. Notice that has the logo for my company and my photo from your profile that we set up earlier. Close preview. So that's how you can preview what your client's going to see when they click a link. On the left-hand side, remember the gray box. Always look at the gray box. And if you want to save these for later so you don't have to type it in every time, notice at the bottom there's a Save Reset Selections. So if you set this up with the tabs that you want to see and the way you want it to view and whether or not the branding is used and which type of branding, profile card, generic card, etc., all you have to do is click Save at the bottom of the screen, and it will save those settings for next time you send an email. So I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side. Your address is selected by default here. Your client can be selected from the contact list if you've already added them. If you haven't, you can go down here and type in their email address, and I'm going to type in an email address to send this to. Notice you can put more than one, separated by a semicolon. And if you go up to the top here, notice if I haven't put them in my contact manager, I probably should if I'm bothering to send them email. So I'm going to click on Add New. And I type in client name first and last, client email address, and I click Save, and that will automatically add them to my contact manager and select them to receive email. So this will capture their first name, last name, and email address to your contact manager in the MLS just by clicking that button right there, Add New. Now, as you scroll down, there's this send mail using my computer's email program. That is to send it from an external email client. Most of the time, you don't want to do that, and it doesn't always track the email that you send out the same as it does if you send it directly from the server. You usually want to not check that option. That's why it's unchecked by default. What right above that? Send a copy to me. That's right, you're sending yourself, the agent, a copy. And I love this one. Notify me the first time the recipient views the link, the page. So when they click that link in their email, it will notify you and say, hey, they looked at your listings. They won't tell you which one they looked at, just that they looked at the email links that you sent them. If you want to put in a secondary email address in the carbon copy, you can do that. But as I said, you can also just put it up here at the top of the screen. Now, when you send out an email, you should have a subject line and a message body. The profile down here at the bottom, we already talked about. We've got a profile card, a generic card, and you can choose which one you want to use. Well, I've got templates created, and one of the templates is the Your Buddy template that I use for prospecting. But I've also got a one-time client. It says, here are some great listings in your projected neighborhood. Here are some houses to check out. Let me know if anything appeals. So I've got this template. Well, how do I create a template so I don't have to type in the same email over and over and over? Well, you just type in a subject line, and you type in a message body, and you choose the signature that you want to be saved as part of this template. And then you click Save as New right up here at the top. And you can save that email template by clicking Save as New, calling it my default. That's not a good name. My default template. How about this? How about basic introductory email for new clients? That tells me what that email is for. Or, as I did, I named them Your Buddy default, and Perfect House, and Investor, and First Group of Matches. You get the idea. You can create these just by typing a subject line and a message body and picking the card signature you want to use at the bottom. Now, this signature down at the bottom only applies to manual email. The automated email will automatically put in your information there for you, because there's a problem when sending auto email, that is subscription email, with a custom signature. Now notice I can turn that signature off. I wouldn't really recommend that, but you can. And whatever you save as far as the template, it will save whatever signature you've selected at the bottom. So I double check it. My from email address is selected up here. I've either selected them as a contact in the list or I typed their email in. I chose copy me, notify me that first time they click the link, and I chose a one-time client template, or I just type in, you can just type in a subject line and type in a message body every time you send this email. But you're going to save yourself a heap of time if you do create a template that you can reuse and then just tweak a little bit for each client. Remember, you can click Save As. Now, if you make changes to an existing template, then you can go through and click Update and save over it. You can rename the template. You can even make it your default template so that it is the default every time you come to this screen. And you can delete templates right there as well. All right, I'm going to go down to the bottom and I'm going to click the email button to send this email to my client. There is the confirmation email page. If I want to send another email with these listings, I can do so. I can go back and edit it, or I can return to the search results. Notice I can also click return to search results right up here at the top left corner, and that's what I'm going to do. So now I'm back to my 4 listings. I want to print these 4 listings. So I don't click email, I click the print button at the top right hand corner. Notice I'm hovering over print. When I click the print button, notice it looks very similar on the left hand side. You got the gray box. Always look at the gray box. You got current 1. That's the yellow one. You got selected 4. That's the 4 that I selected, or all results. Always look at the gray box and you'll always know that you're sending out what you think you're sending out. Otherwise, you will run into an issue where you send them one listing because you didn't actually select any listings. All right, I want all 4 selected listings. And again, do I want the private or public? Now remember, you're printing. So if you print the public report, it doesn't have any of the agent fields that we talked about. If you print the private report, it'll warn you. Private reports should only, why does it say emailed on the print screen? Well, here's why. Notice down at the bottom there's an email button. And this is a trick on the print screen. You can print or email 4 reports. Now on the email screen we could only choose one report to email, but watch this. If I click and then hold down the control key or the command key on a Mac, little bow tie key on a Mac, click, and notice what I'm doing. I'm selecting more than one report. So if I control click multiple reports in this list, I can actually select up to 4 reports at a time to print or email. Remember, there's an email button. And that's the trick of emailing more than one report. It'll send a link for each of those reports if you email, but you can only send more than one report from the print screen. You can also print more than one report on the print screen, but you can email from the print screen up to 4 reports at a time, but only from the print screen. Now, I'm going to go ahead and finish my printing here. I want to print both a public and private version of the reports. I don't have to print it twice. I can simply click this button right here, print both public and private reports, and it will select and print 2 copies of each report. One public, one private. Now, let's think about this. I add the history, and I don't want the history with the little plus sign. I want all of the details. Ooh, that could be a lot of information. Remember, because every MLS number going back to 1994 is going to be in that history. So I want tax info, and I want, well, you know what? I don't want that, but I do want the photos. Print all photos for all listings, or print just the primary photo. Think about this. What if each of the 4 properties has 120 photos on each property? That's a lot of photos. That's a lot of ink. Be careful printing all of the photos, because now it's not going to print 120 photos. Let me make that clear. It will only print the first 48 photos. You can view 150, 500, however many photos online. And so if you send them the interactive view, you can see all of the photos. But when you print, it will only allow you to print 48. And that's for your protection, because you don't want to print 500 photos. Now that said, do you really want to print 48 photos? Well, you could print just the primary, but that's why we have a report up here called the Brief with Photos. And in that box, I selected Brief with Photos. Remember, if I preview down at the bottom left-hand corner, I can see that Brief with Photos report. And now it just has the first 9 photos. Has the primary photo and then the first 9 photos for each of those properties. There's the history. There's the expanded history. Oh boy, look at all that. I'm not sure my client wants to see that. So I'm going to go over here and I'll click Listing History. And I'm going to click Preview again. There's the primary and the 9 photos. And, oh, that's better. It shows the history, but it doesn't show all the details. That's what the listing history is. All right, then I see the next report. There are the photos Oh, I don't need those photos, right? Because they're already part of this report called Brief with Photos. So I uncheck photos and I click preview again down at the bottom left-hand corner. And now as I scroll down through, here is the customer brief and here is the agent brief. Remember the public versus private? And you said you wanted both copies, so there they are. And then you can scroll through all the reports. So here on the print preview screen, you can preview all the reports you're going to create. And again, you can email up to 4 reports. You can PDF and generate the PDF for these listings right now. You can print these listings right now. You can preview these listings right now. And you can even save these settings for later, just like you could on the email screen right there at the bottom. All right, so those are the print options available to you. If I want to go back to the list of results, I simply click the back button there, and there are the 4 listings that we just looked at. That is printing and emailing and the views and everything you need to know about listing results and details on the MLS. If you want to do the exercises for this section, feel free. I'll leave this slide up here for just a second. You can pause it and go through and search for Whitehall Schools and go to the list tab, look at 3 listings, select listings, and then go to the selected section and go through all these options that I just showed you on the list of reports that you saw there. Look at the history. Look at the tax info. Click on the down arrow beside the MLS number in order to see the auditor tax card or the showing service, and print preview, and optionally email yourself some listings. That's the best way to learn how to get in the habit of sending the listings and how to format them and how they're going to look and how they're going to click on the links so that you can explain it to your client down the road. Well, I guess we'll see you next time on Columbus Realtors MLS video training, and we'll talk about Ad Edit. Thanks a lot.